Hi, it's Dwyer. It is August 4th, 2025. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Heavyweight division, folks, I'm just trying to create a gambling opportunity. You know that I privately would love to see Usyk walk away from the sport here, right? He's unbeaten. Um, he's on a high. The cloud that existed over the first fight against Daniel Dubois got lifted by the KO in the second fight. In fact, Dubois is knocked down multiple times. Usyk ends it with his Ivan punch, a left hand from across the street that he hit Dubois with. Dubois went down. No questions about whether or not he beat the count. It looked like Dubois was resigned to the loss after being knocked down a second time. So, as I see it, Usyk, if he's just interested in legacy, if he has enough money in the bank, if he realizes that his current status, which is singular, right? Undisputed at cruiser after an Olympic gold medal, and then undisputed at heavy. If he realizes that that's a very high standard and he doesn't want to play around with it, let others look at that fight against Maris Briedis. Let others look at that first fight against Tyson Fury in terms of the closest opponents have come to beating him. You know, only God could judge him at this point, right? Either Usyk goes that route, or I believe the worthiest opponent is a man who's already held a share of the heavyweight title. That's Joe Parker. He's been on quite a run, right? He beat Deontay Wilder. He beat Zhilei Zhang. He beat Martin Bakole, right? I would argue that if Usyk wants to test himself one more time, I don't know why he would, right? Daniel Dubois was in his 20s. It's not like you can argue that Usyk didn't fight some guys who were in their primes, right? But if he wants to tempt fate one more time, well, fight the worthiest opponent out there. I understand there are other guys with great records. You know, Richard Torres, for example, is unbeaten. But just understand, only one heavyweight has beaten Martin Bakole, Deontay Wilder, and Zhilei Zhang. Right? Have that fight right off into the sunset. I'm a bit astonished, although I understand there is a historical precedent for this, that Terence Crawford, who has an unbeaten record, is risking it. Granted, he's getting paid a lot of money for one final fight against Canelo, a fight I think he loses. Right? But I understand. Um, Sugar Ray Robinson is a gold standard for boxers. People know that Ray Robinson jumped up to light heavy before he retired the first time. He actually came back later and continued fighting. But the first time, he goes up to light heavy to fight Joey Maxim, right? An interesting individual, a guy who would later go on to beat Floyd Mayweather. I know at one point he beat Jersey Joe Walcott. He fought Ezra Charles, wasn't able to beat him. But understand, Joey Maxim's in the Hall of Fame. They had a famous fight at Yankee Stadium. The middleweight champion, Ray Robinson, was ahead on the scorecards. The referee had to be replaced mid-fight because of heat exhaustion. And then Ray Robinson had to quit because of heat exhaustion. Right? Joey Maxim, I believe, becomes the first man to stop Ray Robinson inside of the distance. Well, I understand the history. Bernard Hopkins was on his way to a retirement. He had one more fight. The light heavyweight champion, Antonio Tarver. He took on Tarver. He beat Tarver, which was shocking. Then he actually went on a run at light heavyweight. Go figure, right? So, I understand boxers need to scratch that last itch. But I'm biased. I openly admit it. I believe there's the heavyweight champion and then there's everyone else, right? To have a guy retire on top in a sport where, Joe Frazier lost, Ali lost, Larry Holmes lost, right? Now I'm naming some great heavyweights. Mike Tyson lost. Lennox Lewis lost. Granted, Lewis got back in the saddle, beat everyone who beat him, retired as champ after arguably his toughest fight where he didn't lose, a fight against Vitaly Klitschko. Right? But it'd be interesting for a champ, and I wasn't around in the Rocky Marciano days, it'd be interesting for a champ to retire on top with an unblemished record that extends past the heavyweight division. Right? Now, old-timers could argue that Marciano, weight-wise, fought many of his fights at what we would consider cruiserweight today. But there wasn't a cruiserweight division. Marciano wasn't undisputed at cruiserweight. This is new with Usyk. If you're not going to walk away without a further fight, if you're not going to fight the best available right now, Joe Parker, I've offered a third suggestion. Right? Understand, he beat Joshua, who was ruling the roost when he came up to heavy. Right? He beat Tyson Fury. Right? I know people hate when I say Fury was the lineal. We can debate it. Granted, Fury ran into problems with authorities for some period of time, but I think most people would agree that Vladimir Klitschko was the champion when Fury beat him, and that Fury held the lineal until he was dethroned in a split decision fight by Alexander Usyk. Right? Well, the third person who had the belt for multiple years, who was a big terror, who, if you look at his KO percentage, career-wise, is on a very short list, with the best ever to have held a heavyweight title. Deontay Wilder, I've argued, Usyk could say, you know what, it's no longer about titles. Sanctioning bodies, you want to strip me, go ahead, but I'm going to fight this man. Because there was a time when, with Fury, with Joshua, this man, Deontay Wilder, ruled the roost. Well, let me do something I know 80% or so of my crowd is going to disagree with me on. That's okay. This is really, a bar where we all get to have our opinions. I'm not saying I'm right. But let's make the case on why 6'3" Usyk against 6'6" Deontay Wilder might actually be a fight to watch. How would you describe Usyk's style? I think he's a boxer puncher. He has a fair amount of knockouts. Right? He stopped Tony Bellew. He stopped Dubois twice. Right? He has a fair amount of knockouts. But he's a guy who's also there to outpoint you. He's typically winning on the scorecards. Right? That's his game. He's not a slugger. He's not Zhili Zhang. He's not Deontay Wilder. Right? Those guys are trying to stop you. Even if they're winning a fight on the scorecard, you understand, they're trying to stop you. They're not trying to outpoint you. Now let's remember the end of the Daniel Dubois fight, and it's astonishing. Dubois, gifted puncher in both hands, is a righty. But yet, here's Dubois, rematch. Against the southpaw he should have figured out by now. And where is Usyk, folks? He's on Dubois' right side, isn't he? He's on Dubois' right side. That second knockout, that second knockdown in the rematch, right? Usyk has told you that that was his Ivan punch, right? Usyk put his head down, loaded up, had a punch come from way out here, right, on Dubois' right side. He loaded up and threw a power shot that hit Dubois flush and dropped it. That punch convinced Dubois to stay on the canvas. Right now, Dubois is 6'5". At least he's listed at 6'5". Right? Just understand, Dubois, of course, young guy, figuring out nuance, wasn't leaning back. It's not like Usyk had to reach across the pocket, then reach across the taller fighter to find his chin. He didn't have to do that because Dubois, who had been on the canvas earlier that round, was a little dazed and confused and had the bad habit of lingering there. Right? He's not thinking, I'm 6'5". This guy's 6'3". Let me lean back. Let me also fake with my right hand or throw my right hand to get this guy off my dominant punch side. That's not what Dubois was thinking. Now, I'll just put it to you this way, folks. Are you brave enough to be on the right side of Deontay Wilder? Folks, Wilder has one of the sport's best straight right hands, doesn't he? Folks, look at all the knockouts. The vast majority of them, the vast majority, are straight right hands. Right? I want people to think about the risk involved in being over on Wilder's right side. Right, folks? Wilder's 6'6". Wilder knows how to use his height a little bit better than Daniel Dubois, doesn't he? With Wilder, you see him in the ring, there's always that height dynamic, isn't there? Now let me say, because of the height dynamic, because Wilder is hard to reach, he fights Joe Parker, he goes the distance with Joe Parker, who's shorter than him, kind of like Usyk is. In fact, let's look closer here. Right? Who has stopped Deontay Wilder? I mean, won the fight by KO. A very tall Tyson Fury. Right? Stops him twice. A very tall Tyson Fury stops him twice. I'll concede. In the second fight, one of the key punches of that fight was a body shot by Fury. Right? But understand, a tall guy, we can debate the height, but let's just say Fury's at least 6'7". Stopped Wilder in 2 fights. The only other guy to stop Wilder, not beat him. Understand, Joe Parker did that by decision. The only other guy to stop Wilder was 6'6" southpaw, and that matters here, Zhilei Zhang. Right, folks? Nobody, nobody. Usyk's height has stopped Deontay Wilder. And Usyk coming off a knockout, right, isn't a slugger. I don't believe he is there focused on a knockout like Zhili Zhang is. Right? So let me make another point here. Wilder's fought a few southpaws. There were stretches where he was puzzled by his opponent. Right? I haven't seen the Wilder-Luis Ortiz fight where I thought Wilder was ahead after a few rounds. Right? I don't care what the judges were seeing. I haven't seen that fight. But here's what you need to know. He fought southpaw Luis Ortiz twice. He won both fights by stoppage. Right? Let's name another fight. Arthur Szpilka. Right? Szpilka starts the fight great. Looks good early. Right? Szpilka does not go the distance. Right? Let me say, too, Tyson Fury does go righty-lefty, lefty-righty, has that Terrence Crawford thing worked out, right? Now I should say that Kenneth Sims thing worked out, right? Being able to switch on the move and stuff like that. That James DeGale thing worked out, right? But understand. Tyson Fury gets knocked down multiple times in multiple fights by Deontay Wilder. Doesn't he? Right, so you tell me what happens. 6'3" Usyk was able to set up shop on Dubois' right side. Could he do that against Wilder? Could he? Let's say he throws that Ivan punch, but he's in against a tall guy who knows he's tall, who knows how to lean and roll with punches, who's there for the knockout, who's not there for the boxing match. Right? One of the problems I have with Daniel Dubois is he's bigger than Usyk, doesn't show his size. Actually starts boxing with Usyk. Is even on his back foot at times in that fight. You thought, whoa, player, didn't you knock this man down off a body shot? Shouldn't you be on your front foot, up on the guy, testing him? Shouldn't that be your game plan? You don't think you're going to win a decision against Alexander Usyk, do you? Well, just understand, Deontay Wilder would be in there trying to land right hands. He's not there to win a decision. Now, I'll agree. If Usyk goes on his back foot, Usyk could say, let me outbox this guy. Isn't that what Joe Parker did? Right? Truth be told, Parker went for some home runs. Parker went for a stoppage against Wilder, but Wilder, of course, long, lanky, could lean. Parker wasn't able to land flush. Right? Folks, Usyk could try to beat Wilder by decision. As Usyk would surely have at least one of the belts for the fight would be a 12-round fight. How many fights have you watched? For me, the answer is several. But how many fights have you watched where you're thinking to yourself, wow, Luis Ortiz is winning on my scorecard. If he can just make it past these next few rounds, he could win a decision against Deontay Wilder. Right, folks? Wilder has made a career, literally a career, of catching up with guys during 12-round fights. Hasn't he? Right? If a fighter says, oh, I'm just going to outbox Deontay Wilder for 12 rounds, isn't that playing into Wilder's game? Right, folks? The longer the fight lasts, the more a slugger like Wilder has a chance to catch you. And understand, Wilder hits so hard. Remember that Dominic Brazil KO? He hit so hard that he only has to be right once. You might recall, he hit Bermane Stiverne so hard in a fight that after the fight, after Stiverne got stopped off a shot that hit him on the chin, he was complaining that he had been hit in the back of the head. In other words, he didn't know what hit him. The punch wasn't even close to the back of his head. Wilder hit him that hard. And Stiverne had a chin on him. Right? So just understand, Wilder has had success against lefties. If you're a lefty like Usyk, who isn't really a slugger, forget about the Ivan punch. Could you imagine Usyk timing that Ivan punch, throwing it, missing Deontay Wilder, and being naked even for a second for a Wilder right hand? Let me ask another difficult question. We've seen fights where guys have been hit hard and have needed to survive a round. Right? What's the fight you've seen Alexander Usyk have where he's been caught, where there's another 40 seconds left in the round? Hell, we'll make it 30 seconds left in the round, and he's had to survive for the last 30 seconds of a round. You remember Tyson Fury against Usyk, 9th round of their first fight. You remember how spent Tyson Fury was in the middle of that 9th round. And you were watching it and you were saying, is he going to make it out of this round? Right? You tell me. What round has Usyk had like that? Who's been hit by Deontay Wilder and it's been clear-headed after being hit by a home run shot and has actually just shaken it off? Aren't most guys who've been hit by Wilder in trouble? Right? You remember the Audley Harrison fight? Right? Life changes, doesn't it? You've been hit by Wilder. Many guys don't beat the count. Many guys don't go down immediately but do a chicken dance. Right? Have you seen Alexander Usyk do a chicken dance? Has he been hit and badly hurt and barely survived a round? You remember Dillian White, the 12th round. Well, the last round. Might have been the 10th, might have been the 12th, against Joe Parker. You remember how Dillian White was holding on. Right? He needed to make it to the end. Folks, you don't know how Alexander Usyk would do under those circumstances. What I think I know is that Deontay Wilder would have 12 full rounds to land one haymaker on Alexander Usyk. History is filled. It's filled with decent boxers getting caught, being unable to continue against guys who might not have their boxing skills. Right? Revisit Iran Blade Barkley against Nigel Benn. Right? That fight's a shootout. Right? Just understand, I thought Iran Barkley, who once beat Hearns by decision, had better boxing skills than Nigel Benn. Didn't matter. Right? Benn caught him. Life wasn't the same after that. Right? Iran Barkley wasn't able to continue ultimately. Right? The bullets were fired. He got hit with some, couldn't continue. Are you positive that Usyk Wilder fight's a done deal? Do you think Usyk would be able to load up on a left hand like he did Daniel Dubois? I openly concede, openly, that Zhilei Zhang caught up with Deontay Wilder and stopped him, right? A southpaw. But I believe if you look at Zhang closely, you'll realize that not only does he have an absolutely deadly left, but his right hand's a knockout punch. In other words, and he's taller. He's much taller than 6'3" is Usyk, 6'6" is Zhilei Zhang. I think Zhilei Zhang's the kind of slugger who would give Wilder more problems than a boxer puncher like an Usyk. Now, I'm not suggesting here that Wilder wins the fight, that that's a done deal. What I'm suggesting is it's iffy. Both sides. That's a competitive fight. So while I myself would say that Usyk should be a favorite, right? Let's say he'd have a 60% chance of winning, a minus 150. Maybe you want to go higher. Maybe Usyk, a minus 170. Given the recent lines I'm seeing on fights, given the hate for Deontay Wilder, even though Wilder's fighting some of the toughest opponents imaginable, right? Joe Parker, Zhilei Zhang, right? Wilder, by the way, only has 4 losses. The other 2 losses are to Tyson Fury, right? Think about that, right? Also, we're hearing that Wilder's washed up, right? Many pundits have said so, but yet, in the world in which I live, power is the last to go. The guys who get washed first are the guys who are relying on timing and movement and all their other muscles. It's not the guy who only needs to hit you once. They recently asked Evander Holyfield who the hardest puncher he faced was. Right after all, Evander faced Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, right? His answer was George Foreman. He said Foreman hit him so hard, he was thinking that his teeth had been knocked out. I'm not kidding. Well, just understand, Foreman, I believe, fought Holyfield when he was what, in his 40s or close to his 40s? Right? In other words, Holyfield's telling you that in a career where he fought several guys, right, some senior citizen hit him the hardest. Right? Think about it. Didn't he fight Tyson twice? Didn't he fight Lewis twice? He's telling you a senior citizen hit him the hardest. Folks, if Wilder still has his punch, and if Wilder has 12 rounds, 12, to catch up with Alexander Usyk, understand, you have some of the questions, too, that you're going to have in this Terence Crawford-Canelo fight, right? If Usyk moves away a bit too much, just like if Crawford moves away a bit too much from Canelo, people are going to say, hey, he's running. He's going to lose a lot of those rounds. If Wilder knows how to frame things so that it looks like he's the only one trying to engage, that could be a disastrous fight for Alexander Usyk, especially if Wilder's able to punctuate it with some hard shots. Anyway, I want people to think about Usyk's options. right? My favorite option is to leave the sport here. Um, he's beaten enough quality opponents. Again, Joshua, Fury, Dubois all held a heavyweight title, right? He's beaten credible opponents. His walkaway fight would be by stoppage in the first half of the fight, right? The second fight against Fury, the public consensus seems to be that he won that fight by at least a couple of rounds, right? The idea is that he has a moment here where he can walk away viewed by most as the best of his generation. And of course, there are added benefits because he's unbeaten, right? That's option A. Option B is, okay, look, I'm walking away from the sport. I need for the world to know that I left the stage fighting the most qualified guy not holding a belt. Right now, I'm not sure why that's more desirable than beating a guy with a share of the title, becoming undisputed, and then saying, that's it, my last fight was against a reigning champion, right? If he wants to satisfy his ego and say, look, I left beating the best contender, there's Joe Parker. Have at it. The third option, to me, should be, look, my generation, who were the champs? Joshua, been there, done that. Fury, been there, done that. 5-year heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder. He's from my era. Usyk's 38 years old, folks. He's from my era. I'm going to put a bow on the package. This was a multi-year heavyweight champion. I'm going to leave no doubt on my ability to beat the multi-year heavyweight champions of my era who are still active. This guy is still active. He recently got a stoppage. Let's have at it, right? All I'm saying is, if you think Deontay Wilder is going to allow this guy to linger on the side of his straight right hand, you're kidding yourself. If you think there might not be a trap set, right? Wilder, I'm sure, has read the same boxing articles we all have, right? Wilder, I'm sure, knows about Usyk's Ivan punch, right? You know the traps fighter set. Wilder's there looking innocent. He sees Usyk angling over to that right side. Wilder says, hey, a counter straight right would have less chance of being stopped than an aggressive straight right. I see him getting ready to throw his Ivan. Let me act innocent. See him start to throw it. Let me lean back, have the punch graze me, then let me end this guy's title run. Folks, he stopped Luis Ortiz twice. He stopped Spielka twice. I would argue, and I know the judges disagree, Ortiz got off to a fast start in both fights. Spielka got off to a fast start in their fight. Right? Understand, Wilder, KG vet, more than 40 fights. Right? He understands he's not going to beat Usyk on the scorecards. Right? He's just there looking for moments. He didn't get the moment against Joe Parker. Right? Just understand, Parker's a guy who was heavyweight champ. He won the title by beating Andy Ruiz. This was Ruiz's first shot at the heavyweight title. Right? Understand, when he fought AJ, both guys were unbeaten. Right? That fight's a big part of both guys' legacies. Right? If Wilder fights Usyk, are you certain that Usyk's going to be able to stay away for 12 rounds? Folks, understand, Tyson Fury was not. That second fight was such a rough and tumble affair that I believe they make it to round 10 or 11. Excuse me, in that third fight. Right? In other words, Wilder's still standing. They're still throwing bombs. Right? He doesn't go down against a guy taller than him until you're in the championship rounds. Right? If this is a farewell fight for Usyk, are you sure Usyk's going to be satisfied just sticking and moving? I'm not sure. And if he gets caught, folks, we don't know his recuperative powers because we haven't seen him holding on, lasting, trying to make it. You know, the round where Tyson Fury gets knocked down twice by Deontay Wilder in the third fight. Right? Tyson Fury had to dig deep to survive that round. Right? It was a miracle that he was able to continue in the next round. Do you know that with certainty about Alexander Usyk? Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours. I know 90% of the people responding are going to say, Wilder has no shot. Again, all I ask is to just think about the math of the ending of that Usyk-Dubois fight, right? Where is Usyk? He's off at the side. He has a big left planned, right? That left is going to come from left field, literally. I mean, he's over on the right side of a young fighter who thinks he can box with Alexander Usyk, right? He's not opposite a tall and lanky Deontay Wilder or Vitaly Klitschko, right? These are the tall guys who understand that they have ring coverage. They can hit you from distance, right? And who understand that they can force you, particularly if you're loading up, to throw that home run, which is exactly what Usyk did, right? Usyk has told the press, I threw my Ivan, right? A tall guy knows when you're going to throw and knows when to lean, right? If he throws that Ivan on Deontay Wilder, if he goes for Wilder's chin and Wilder leans away from that punch, he's going to be in danger. Those are my thoughts. I look forward to yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Understand the way this works. Let's say I believe Wilder should be a plus 200, right? You know, if they release the odds and he's up around plus 600, that seems to be the current trend in some of these fights, right? Plus 600. People are going to overlook his career. They're going to overlook his power. They're going to make him a 6-1 favorite. Underdog. Just understand, at that point, I can say, okay, great. I don't see Usyk knocking out Wilder early in the fight, right? I know Zhilei Zhang pulled it off. I view that as a one-off, right? Joe Parker couldn't, right? So I can get a plus 600 on one side of the play, knowing that if I bet $10, I win 60. Then I have money to play with. I could say, you know what? Why don't I take 40 of those possible winnings and throw them on, give me a bunch of rounds, the over 5 rounds, right? Because a lot of people are going to say, oh, I don't think Wilder today is better than Daniel Dubois, right? Because people have short memories, right? You know, it's as if Wilder got knocked down 3 times by Kevin Lorena, right? So you're a gambler. You're like, okay, great. Let me take advantage of the plus 600. Again, look at current odds, folks. There's some quality fighters out there plus 600. Let me get this plus 600. Let me take 40 of it, right? You know, $10 bet to win 40. I can then throw that 40 if I believe in Usyk on some bet involving Usyk. Since I believe the fight's going to go a few rounds, I can say, hey, you know what? I'll have this set up so if we make it to the start of the 6th round or the start of the second half of the fight, the 7th round, then I'm already in the winner's circle, right? Because you and I know Usyk early has to be mindful of Wilder's power, right? You don't fight a Wilder, you don't fight a George Foreman, you don't fight a Nigel Benn thinking, hey, let me crash the pocket early. You know, hey, I'm a better fighter than this guy. Let me just come in with some moves. I'll be able to avoid his big punch. You can't risk the big punch. You can't. Right? So if it's a tepid start where the guys are looking at each other, we've seen these fights. Guys are feinting, seeing how the other guy reacts, seeing what the other guy's defense is like. If the fight doesn't get started until the 3rd round, you're sitting there thinking, great, all they have to do is survive the next 3 or 4 rounds. And I'll be in the winner's circle. It's like, $40 on this. Let's say I get a, minus 200. That would give me, what, $20 in winnings off that side of the play. I would still get $10 in winnings off the other side. Well, put it this way. I'd win 20 on either. If either wins, minus the 10 that I have on the corresponding opposite side, I'd win $10. Think it through. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If either happens, right? Wilder wins or the fight makes it past, let's say, the first 6 rounds. Just understand, if Wilder wins by stoppage late, as he did against Luis Ortiz, then I'd win both halves of the bet. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.